start to understand what makes good coffee. To make a really good cup of coffee is quite simple, but it's amazing how many people can't do it as well. If you're interested in that industry, just try and soak up as much about it as possible. And there are lots of different parts to it. I suppose I've never really been looking for an office job.
Hello and welcome to this shorter version of episode 9 of Creative Careers, featuring Will, owner and barista at the fantastic Counter Coffee. Now, hopefully you have seen the full episode. A link to it is in the description of this episode below. But I would encourage you to watch it if you've got an interest in any of the main themes. Of course, the coffee industry, the wine trade as well, becoming a barista, running your own business, and some of the many other things that Will talked about in the course of the episode. But if you've only got a passing interest, that's why I created this highlights package. Now, if you are already a subscriber to my channel, thanks so much. If not, all you need to do is click on the subscribe button below, and that way you'll be notified of all the new videos for free. You won't have to go looking for them, they'll just arrive in your notification feed. Talking of free, this is a free resource designed to help and support young people, particularly with career choices, with some inspiration, some guidance and all that sort of thing. So please do share it with people who you feel might also benefit. With that being said, on with the highlights episode. Counter Coffee is an off-grid mobile coffee bar based in Worcestershire and run by owner and barista Will. As well as doing busy events such as the Three Counties show, he's often found at the foot of the Malvern Hills, where hikers and dog walkers alike can enjoy his refreshments.
I can be here any day of the week, so it's quite nice to have something like this to fall back on when there aren't events, and I suppose that's what I use it for. But yeah, so I do a lot of different events, things like, there's a Three Counties show. I focus on kind of local, medium-sized to small events, I guess, would be the bigger events maybe aren't so great for something like a coffee trailer because they just cost a lot and you can only make so many coffees in an hour. But local events work really well, and I suppose key is finding those events. That's just really important, So I worked in the wine trade for 20 odd years, which is a great job. Varied and travel and all sorts of things. But I think I wanted to really work for myself and get away from wine. And coffee has a lot of parallels. The way you do things like tastings. They call it cuppings. The flavour profiles, the different types of coffees, and the care that's taken, from the growers to the roasters to the actual end product where the barista makes the coffee. It is there's a lot of parallels which really interest me, and so I've been thinking about it for a few years before I actually went into doing it for seriously. Basically, COVID's kind of changed things for everyone, and my job didn't really exist anymore because it was basically going out and meeting people to sell wine to, and we couldn't even do that. So things changed a lot, and it seemed like the right time to basically retrain. So I got a job as a barista in a local restaurant / cafe, and also at the same time I got a job in a coffee roastery selling coffee to people to wholesale, basically, so to coffee shops. And over about a year, it gave me a really great insights into all parts of the coffee industry.
So you really threw yourself into coffee,
one
way or another.
Yeah, and it was really good. It was a baptism of fire. It was not easy, but I learned a lot. And and I suppose that was the basis for what I've got now. From there, I got a government loan, um, and a grant, and yeah, set this up basically. Um, a lot of research. I mean, I think I've probably missed out a lot in between there, but it's all about market research and standing places to see how many people walk past in the day, things, the exciting stuff. But yeah, and here I am, and I've got now a business which is viable going forward.
When he was younger, Will was principally interested in art and photography. After his A-levels, he went travelling to Australia, where he worked in vineyards, and then on his return to the UK, he pursued a degree in photography. But it was the wine trade that gave him his first big opportunity. Looking back now, he has a far more pragmatic view on the theme of qualifications.
I think if you want to get into photography, you don't need to do a degree. I mean, I think I learned that. I enjoyed it a lot. I met some great people who still have some great friends from that time, but it did cost a lot of money, and I don't think it got me any further in photography. People want to see what you can do at this moment in time. They don't really care about what qualifications you have. But that's photography, but I think I probably would do it again though, because I did really enjoy it. But I think, if you want to get into coffee, all you have to do is get a job as a barista. It's got to be the best start, and in a cafe, and learn how to make good coffee, and also start to understand what makes good coffee. I think, the elements that are involved. To make a really good cup of coffee is quite simple, but it's amazing how many people can't do it as well. So I think that's got to be the basis. And if you're interested in that industry, just try and soak up as much about it as possible. And there are lots of different parts to it. So barista is kind of the entry level, but I think anyone getting into coffee would start there. But from there, you can go into coffee roasting, or you can be selling. You can be a salesperson in the coffee trade. You can sell into wholesale accounts, or you can start your own business. With a coffee trailer or a van or a cafe. I mean, I'd probably a coffee trailer is a little bit easier to enter into financially. I think you need to be able to get on with people, and a lot of different types of people. It's normally working in a team, so it's important to be able to get on with your co-workers. But at the end of the day, you're customer facing, and you've got to put up with the public. So if you're not a great fan of them, it may be worth staying away from it. You're standing all day. It is physical as well. It's repetitive. There's you're doing very similar thing, but I suppose it's actually caring about consistency, and having pride in your work is really important, because you can easily just bang out not very good coffee. I think to be a good barista, it's having that extra care as well.
In terms of the advantages and disadvantages to running a mobile business such as Counter Coffee, Will was really quite open to sharing his own views.
Being off grid, I don't have any mains electricity or mains water or mains gas. So they're the three, I guess, that I've always got to keep an eye on. I've got solar panels on the roof, and a big battery, big lithium battery, which, when it's full, will last 3 days using the electricity that I use in here. So that's the lights, outside, inside. I've got 2 grinders, and just the startup on the espresso machine and the water pump. All of that, it's not very much electricity at all. If I was to run the espresso machine just on electricity, which you can do, it would last probably 10 minutes. So, it gives you some sort of idea. So the espresso machine uses gas, and then water. Yeah, I suppose every morning I've got to fill up. I've got big tanks of water under here, um, two 25-litre tanks of water, basically, and I make sure that's all full, and that will be enough for most days. There were challenges getting it all together. So I bought this as pretty much a shell, and I had to kit it out myself. Um, so I've only got so many skills, and so I needed to get in cabinet fitters, uh, gas guy, electrician. All these people I had to then manage to get together all at the same right time to get everything working. I don't even know how much it would cost to set up a cafe, but probably sort of 50,000 plus, by a lot, maybe quite a lot more plus than that, I guess. Where you can set up something like this for half that.
And you're not necessarily exposed to some of the variable costs that things like obviously rent and
well, that's the thing, yeah. So I mean, I think there's a couple of positives really, or there's probably more, but the fact that you can be light on your feet. So if something's not working, say you realise it's really quiet wherever you set up, like here, you can move somewhere else. There is red tape involved. You can't just go anywhere, but you do have that flexibility, which makes such a difference. If you're in a cafe and you realise the footfall just is not great there, I mean, you're stuck really. The other thing is margin. So my margin is a lot better than a cafe. So a cafe's, if they're lucky, they're working 10% margin. I would say a lot of them more like 5%. Where this, I aim at 30%. So it's a big difference, definitely. Because I have, it's a lot lower operating costs. You have to come across well. You have to be organised. You show that you have everything legally, all the legal requirements. They don't want to be chasing for anything, so everything has to always be up to date. There's a lot of things which you have to be understand about the health and safety aspects and gas safety checks and fire hydrant checks and all these things. They want to see everything, so you have to have all those things, and that does take a bit of organisation. I suppose that's part of it, being organised. But I think really the main thing is that you come across well, that you can, you're a person that they can deal with happily, but also that your product's good. And probably that's number one thing. If your product's good enough, then you're gonna be able to get into places, and you're gonna get repeat custom from that as well. Because that's what you want. You don't want to just do one event and then be asked back. You want it to keep on going. So I suppose, if you can sort out your offering and make it all look good as well, then that's key. I'm in a very different place to where I thought I would be when I was, say, 16. And I think it's key just to be open-minded and to think that nothing is set in stone, that you can even change your career midway through life, and it's totally possible these days. I think say yes as much as possible would be something. Things come up all the time, and it's so easy to think, oh, do I want to do that? But I think just give it a go. That's kind of what I've always done, and I've experienced a lot of things, and it's been a good ride so far. So we'll see where it goes from here, though.
Well, it was great to finally get to catch up with Will and find out all about his journey, his business, how he came to be, the challenges that he's faced and overcome, and really, the working environment for this sort of business. The challenge with the high street now, with so much uncertainty in the economy, means it's very difficult. There can be a lot of barriers to people who want to get set up within leisure, hospitality, food and drink. But having something with this level of flexibility, yes, of course, there are challenges and there are big things to overcome, but the flexibility, and the attractiveness of the market, where there's so many more live events now, and particularly local events and festivals and places that people want to be able to eat and drink. What Will has got here is really fantastic. I hope you've enjoyed watching, and maybe it's given you some food for thought.